In this country, the Conservative leadership race is back on, and candidate Peter MacKay was first to jump in on the firearms debate by tweeting a shot at the Prime Minister's announcement today.
At a time when all Canadians are still grieving the loss of the 22 innocent victims of the largest mass shooting in Canadian history back home in Nova Scotia, Justin Trudeau has chosen to take advantage of this tragedy by releasing his long-promised changes to Canada's firearms regulations. The timing of this is crass and beyond the pale. As Prime Minister, I can guarantee all Canadians that I will never take advantage of a tragedy like this to push a political agenda.
MacKay's rivals all weighed in as well, saying they'd instead rather protect the rights of law-abiding gun owners and focus on stopping firearms from being smuggled into Canada. Let's talk a bit more about the strategy behind all of this with Jaime Watt. He's the executive chairman of Navigator Limited. He's run several leadership campaigns. He joins us from Toronto and in Ottawa tonight. Kory Teneycke is the managing partner at Rubicon Strategy. He, of course, served as director of communications to Prime Minister Harper. Hi, both of you. Great to see you.
Good to see you, too.
It's so nice to see you both healthy. I appreciate you joining us. There's so much to talk about. I've been anxious all week because there's a ton of stuff going on in this race that is now officially back on. Why don't we start, Jaime, with the discussion around guns and not into the merits of the argument being made, but the strategy behind the position that the leadership candidates have taken so far. What do you think of it?
Right. I think you asked the right question, actually. Like, let's leave aside what your point of view on this is. I mean, I just don't understand Peter MacKay. For someone who's supposed to be leader ready and ready to walk into the Prime Minister's office, to choose to criticize the Prime Minister for taking action on this when Canadians are screaming for some kind of action to be taken. Like, I just don't get the position he took. Setting aside from the fact his position on the merits, I just think that was a very odd positioning that he used in that clip that you just played. It was bizarre to me. Did
you think it was odd, Kory, or who might that be directed at, and who might it resonate with?
Conservatives. Conservatives have raised millions and millions of dollars on the firearms issue over the years. It's I think a core foundational issue within the suite of conservative family, going back to Bill C-68 under the Liberals and Minister Alan Rock. It's been at the centerpiece of taking a different approach than the Liberals on this has been a centerpiece of Conservative policy for my entire career. So I'm surprised Jamie's surprised. Like, I think this is orthodoxy. It's not.
I'll get you back, Jaime.
It's not unusual at all. He's talking to law-abiding gun owners who feel like they're being victimized by this government and being made a scapegoat for cheap political points. So, I think it's maybe a bit of choir preaching. I don't think there's many people in the Conservative Party that disagree with a position that not just Peter took, that all the candidates have taken.
They did, yeah. They took a position, but he's the only one. And Jaime, I'll get you back in on this. He's the only one that released a video like that and sort of put it in the framework around Nova Scotia. That's to you, Jaime.
Yeah, and that's just my point. I agree with Kory entirely. This is a red meat rock, bedrock conservative policy and point of view. It's smart politics in terms of a leadership convention. I get all that. I just thought the positioning of it that he took was strange. And I think it speaks to a lot of strange positioning that Peter's been taking through this campaign, which defies common sense. This thing that he sent out yesterday about the bathroom bill.
Yeah, I want to ask.
I mean, it's just, again, it's just what is going on in that campaign. I do not understand.
Okay,
why would he bring that up?
Yeah, let me explain it so that our viewers know when we say the bathroom thing, what we mean here. So Peter MacKay's campaign sent out an email yesterday, basically, trying to contrast his position with Aaron O'Toole. He took a shot at rival candidate Aaron O'Toole in an email blast, basically questioning O'Toole's decision in 2012 to vote in favor of a bill on transgender rights. And what he said specifically was, while I haven't always agreed with him, like when he voted in favor of the transgender rights bathroom bill in 2012, I've always respected that his motivations were positive, but I'm not so sure anymore. Now, Mr. MacKay did issue a statement that I'm going to find. Sorry, I have 5,000 papers in front of me in 1 second. But Kory, why don't I just get you to weigh in on the initial email blast first, and then I'll read out the statement.
Yeah, I think if there's one sub-theme of this entire leadership race and the decisions that got us to having a leadership race in the first place, this is, I guess, the process of the Conservative Party exercising the demons of homophobia from itself. And we should all be thankful for that. I think it was a weird thing for Peter's campaign to put out. Glad to see that there's a retraction that came through. But we've seen a lot of things that are trying to make political points out of people's sexual preferences and issues around gender identity, which I don't think make a lot of sense and don't have a home in a modern Conservative Party.
Okay, I found the statement that came out it's actually just before we went to air around 5 o'clock. The statement says in part, the term bathroom bill was a term that had been widely used by media, both in Canada and the U.S. Mr. MacKay has consulted members of the LGBTQ community, including members of his team, and understands the term is narrow and carries a negative connotation. Jaime, what do you think?
Actually, that makes my head explode. You're telling me that today, Peter had to on May 1st, 2020, consult with members of the LGBT community, and is that to learn that this was a hurtful term, to learn that this was a narrow term? He had to do that today? He didn't know that? That's what I'm saying. I know Peter. I think he's a very skilled politician. He's been in this business a long time, and I, for the life of me, can't understand what the hell is going on in that campaign. I mean, fine that somebody sent that out yesterday. He walks it back today, but look at the way they walked it back. He consulted today and figured this out today like it was a revelation from the heavens. It's weird.
So let's take a step back and try to help us understand, both of you, and I'll start with you, Kory, how this fits into the larger race in front of us. How would you assess where this race is at right now? We found out yesterday that Conservatives will vote now by mail-in ballot exclusively. The results will be announced August 21st. From your perspective, what kind of race is this right now?
Disappointing.
What do you really think, Kory? Yeah.
I think it would be nice if we had more diversity in the race. Regional in terms of viewpoints. I think it would be nice if we had one or two more serious candidates, and if we got the party to the point where some of these fringe candidates who suck up oxygen were sort of shunted off to the side. Look, Aaron and Peter are both credible individuals, and I think the race will be, more interesting. But it's a two-person race between two candidates that are very similar guys, and neither one of them are bad guys. It's just I think there's a broader diversity and spectrum of viewpoints and people with talent and things that to contribute to this race. And unfortunately, a bunch of them didn't run.
Jaime, what do you think this means for the overall race? I should also mention, and we've been talking about it throughout some of the week, Derek Sloan is another candidate who's in hot water over the past week for comments that he made directed towards the Chief Public Health Officer of this country, Dr. Theresa Tam, asking, he says rhetorically, whether she works for Canada or China. He didn't apologize, but said, I could have said that in a different way.
Yeah, it reminds me of what maybe Kory should have listened to his granny when she said, be careful what you pray for, you might get it. Kory worked really hard to get this race going. And now all of a sudden, look what we've got on our hands. And that was despite his best intentions. And as he says, he had hoped for something else. I think we had all hoped for something else. Because at the end of the day, the Conservatives had to take stock after the last election and realize that Canadians weren't willing to give us a chance with the keys to the government. And we knew we had to change to do that. And I think one of the things I share Kory's disappointment that the race so far has not done that. I don't think we're doing what we need to do to captivate Canadians, captivate their imagination, and to earn their confidence, so they're going to give us a chance next time around. Now, to be fair to these candidates, they've had some things run against them. No one could have predicted what COVID-19 would do to the race, and so they have been hamstrung in ways that they couldn't have anticipated. But if the goal was to put on offer to Canadians ideas and leadership and things that would get them excited about giving us a chance to govern, I'm not sure we're actually accomplishing that yet. Now, the vote is until August. There's still lots of time. So let's hope the candidates can find their footing and find their messaging between now and then.
That actually brings me to my final question, Kory, to you, and that is, they've got between now and August. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We do not know how long some form of this will last. What's your advice to them, based on what you've witnessed so far, based on your disappointment? What advice would you give them? Do you think it's possible to sort of change track?
Well, I think there's a bunch of things they could do to make this a more interesting race that engages Canadians. And let's remember, it's not just about having different candidates, but having more and more serious competition, more candidates in a race, forces candidates to have to perform, forces them to go out and define themselves on issues, put out policy, to engage Canadians at a different level. Right now we're being asked to choose between, peanut butter that's crunchy and peanut butter that's smooth. Like it's the same thing. It'd be nice to have some other flavors in there, some other choices. But if they want to make it a more engaging race, put out some more policy. Let's engage on some issues. The issue set and things that people have at the front of their mind right now because of the COVID crisis are very different. What's the plan of these candidates to get us out of the absolute pit of debt that this government has thrown us into in their response? What's their plan to get economic growth back? What's their plan to deal with China? Sloan may have been ham-fisted in his comments, but there are a lot of people with a lot of serious concerns about how our chief medical officer handled this crisis. I think that's real. Questioning her loyalty to Canada is appropriate or on point, but there are big questions there. And I think there are big questions about China. Look, China lied its ass off throughout this from the beginning. And there was a chance early on to contain this within the country of China. And they made a lot of bad choices. And there needs to be some accountability around that. So, let's see the candidates bring some of these things to the fore, and let's have a lively debate. Draw Canadians in. People are thinking more about COVID and that's fine. There's lots of big policy issues around that we could be talking about. There's lots to criticize with how this government has handled things, yet you're not seeing a lot of it. You're seeing side debates about, when Parliament's sitting, which is, political process stuff of very little relevance.
Okay, I have to leave it there. Thanks, guys. Great to see you both. Appreciate it. Thanks to Jaime Watt and Kory Teneycke. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.